Hello, I'm Richard Bryant, Executive Director of Musco Center for the Arts at Chapman University here in Orange, California. It is my pleasure to welcome you back to At the Musco, a free, interactive, online series that showcases the best in performance, production, and arts education here at Chapman in a celebration of what we call the art of community. Tonight, we'll get to know the trailblazing dancer and choreographer Micaela Taylor. She was named one of the 25 to watch by Dance Magazine in 2019 for her intuitive musicality, syncopation, counterpoint, and fast, complex phrases of movement and gesture. Ms. Taylor is the founder of the TL Collective, an innovative new dance company focused on creating diverse and unique works she calls contemporary pop. Two of those works, Drift and the world premiere of 90 Sugar, will be performed in person at Musco Center on Friday, September 24. But before that, Micaela Taylor and the TL Collective will undertake a week-long technical residency here at Chapman that features morning classes with Department of Dance students and afternoon and evening rehearsals for the Friday night premiere, which, yes, is our first indoor performance since the COVID-19 shutdown a year and a half ago. I know of no better way to reopen Musco Center than to have Micaela Taylor and the TL Collective inspire this university and our community in an original, heretofore unseen celebration of life that is at once beautiful, provocative, compelling, and fun. As always, we encourage you to ask questions and start conversations in the live chat to the right of your screen. Our host tonight is Dr. Brynn Shiovitz, professor in Chapman's Department of Dance. She's the author of the forthcoming book, Behind the Screen, Tap Dance, Race, and Invisibility During Hollywood's Golden Age, Oxford, 2022. She's also editor of The Body, the Dance, and the Text, Essays on Performance and the Margins of History. And now, here is Dr. Brynn Shiovitz.
Micaela, it is such a privilege to speak with you. Hi there.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who's joining us online. Just so you know, our chat needs your love, so feel free to type your questions in the box. I'll be taking them towards the end of our conversation, so if I don't answer them or get to them immediately, don't think that we're not paying attention, because we are. But so you can send them anytime, but we'll be getting to them sort of at the end. So let's just jump in. So Micaela, you are on fire these days. It seems like you're on everyone's watch list and quickly acquiring this impressive list of commissions with major companies, while also presenting at what I would call sort of like the dancer's bucket list of venues. So before the evening's up, you'll have to let us know how you keep up with all the excitement. But first, I think we got to start at the beginning. So could you just speak a little bit to how and when you first started dancing, and at what point that turned into a love of choreography for you?
Of course. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure to be at the Musco Center. We are so excited to be performing live. Wow, where did it all start? Well, I started when I was 3 years old, actually, dancing and training. Thanks to my mom, she put me in dance classes, and that is exactly what I wanted to do as a career. And didn't know it then, but around the age of 12, I realized this is what I wanted to do professionally. And all throughout high school, you know, I started off in hip hop, but then started to train more so in classical forms of dance, ballet, modern. And after graduating high school, going to college, I realized that began to change a little bit for me, what I wanted to do. I always saw myself being a sort of commercial dancer, dancing in music videos and things like that. But then as I continued in my classical form of training, I started to switch gears and be more interested in concert dance. And so after graduating college, I went to Cornish College of the Arts in Seattle, Washington. I got a job here in Los Angeles with two contemporary dance companies, first 8-9 Dance Company and then BODYTRAFFIC. And I think that time allowed me to see that I really had a passion to create. I really had a passion for creating. And not only creating dances, but atmosphere and building community. And so I started the TL Collective in 2016, and it was a hybrid of what I started in, which is hip hop. So you see a lot of groove, you see a lot of isolations and just freedom of expression mixed with classical lines and shape and training and contemporary training. And so I would say, you know, essentially I was creating all along while training, while dancing with other companies. You know, 8-9 was at first a Gaga based company, which if you don't know, Gaga originating in Israel is sort of an improv based sort of movement language. And so I was building those skills all along, creating, being inspired by every person that I came into contact with, every teacher that I worked with, every director, every choreographer. And that really influenced my way of moving. And so as you see now, it is very expressive. We tell a lot of narrative, and it's a combination of everything that I've experienced thus far as an artist, as a dancer.
Great. So you mentioned contemporary pop, classical lines, Gaga. Are there certain choreographers or teachers that you had in college or growing up that really you think have informed your style the most?
Absolutely. So I would say two right now are very influential, Crystal Pite and Hofesh Schechter. And the reason why those are the two is because Crystal Pite, she really does use narrative wisely. And I'm very inspired of how she uses props and text and character and allow those things, those elements to really influence the overall story of her work. And so I'm very inspired by that. Likewise with Hofesh Schechter, there is a groundedness, there's a weightedness, there is a rawness that I really love about his work, the way he's able to, again, bring out character and gesture and movement. And so I would say those two choreographers in particular right now are really inspiring to me. But the list goes on and on. It's really difficult to try to pinpoint one particular person as I look back on my training coming up all throughout college, all throughout high school, and going back further. But I think as time progresses, I'm realizing that I'm influenced not only by artists, but by my family, by my friends, by people who aren't in the dance world. I'm influenced by human nature. I'm influenced by communication and words. And so there's so many things that inspire my choreography and creativity.
And that synthesis is so clear because you have just such an individual voice, and it's so great to watch. So I guess you've spoken a little bit. I was gonna, think about asking you maybe kind of what your motivations were outside of self. But what about more like your internal, like your impetus? Where do you think you would locate that inner impulse that you have to move?
Yeah, so it goes back to human connection. And I started the TL Collective in 2016, as I said, in hopes to build community, TL standing for to love. And what I realized is after graduating school, there wasn't that natural community that is built like there is in college, right? Because you see your friends every day, you live with them. And so it's like this natural community that is built. When I started dancing professionally, I realized that you really had to be intentional to build relationships. And that was something that I honestly struggled with at first because I wasn't used to that. I was used to just, having friends automatically, just being in that environment. But as people may know, and it's not only in the entertainment world, but it's really, I think, exaggerated in the entertainment world. It is very competitive and it is very vulnerable. And so you're putting yourself out there because, yes, you want to be seen, you want to be maybe recognized, or yes, in some way promoted. And I don't know if that's the right word, but you want to be valued as an artist in what you're doing and what you're putting out there. And sometimes that can block the relationships that are built. And so I really strive to create, and that is my impetus, that is my motivation, my purpose, I think, in creating, I know, in creating the TL Collective, really before dance, wanting to build authentic, real relationships with the people that I'm with. And that takes a lot of work and effort and intention and communication and just letting it all out there, not just in how we move, but how we are with each other every single day outside of the studio or any given moment. So that is really what I strive for and why I started the TL Collective.
That's great. So both like that willingness to put yourself out there, but also this desire to be seen for who you really are, which I think is a really beautiful thing. So you mentioned the TL Collective. I'm really curious, who are your dancers? How do you choose them?
Yes, so my dancers are amazing, and I met most of them through class, honestly, class taking. I started teaching class alongside starting the TL Collective at Dance Arts Academy, this small little studio in LA, and they trickled in kind of one by one. At first, it was a slow start, and then I started to get a few dancers that were coming regularly. And for me, that showed that they wanted to be there. They wanted to dive into the work that I was producing, that I was investigating and searching out. And they were just willing to be a part of kind of the ups and downs of that process. And so for me, when I saw that commitment of them not really getting anything out of it, I wasn't really performing a lot yet. They were just coming to class hungry for learning what I was creating. And I decided to ask them to join my process in performing and performing these works that just kind of pop in my head, and I'm not quite sure where it's going to be performed yet, or I'm not quite sure where, where it's going. But now as time has progressed, I am more intentional about finding particular dancers now that I kind of have about, I think, five dancers that are with me on every show. Now I do hold auditions sometimes. I do workshops, and that allows room for me to meet new dancers. And then also as I travel and I teach on my freelance jobs in different states or different parts of the world, I'm able to meet new dancers that way. And so, yeah, things have opened up along the years, but really it started off with those few people that were committed to coming to class.
So it sounds like the answer to the question, who are your dancers? People with like an appetite for your movement and who totally trust you, just are kind of along for the adventure of it all.
Right.
Really great. So can you speak a little bit to sort of your choreographic process with them, if it's at all collaborative or whether you're just feeding them, choreography?
Yes. So I do generate movement fairly quickly. I start with just abstract movement coming into the space. And so most of the time the movement is coming from me. But as time, again, has progressed, I have really watched and I've gotten to know the people that I work with. So I know how they kind of move. I know what their instincts are. And I keep that in mind as I'm creating. I've also allowed more and more room, I think, as that trust has been built between the both of us, more and more room for them to put in more input and to kind of share, what works best for their body in this moment, because I want everyone to perform at their best and show them in their best light. And so I really try to, not only is it feeding my appetite because it's a joy to create, but I'm really serving them. I really want them to be at their best. And that's what I think I've learned the most about being in this position, is that it's really about serving the people that I'm around. Yeah.
That's nice. Okay, so now some like more specific questions about this choreographic process. Are you someone who is it the music that moves you, or are you someone who adds the music after the fact?
I most of the time add the music after the fact, which is always, which is always a challenge, because people do see our work and, think it's pretty musical. In some cases, I have started with the music, but that's very rare. Usually I start with movement and I'm playing all different sorts of sounds and music and then finally picking one that seems to really latch on to our movement. And then I do make tweaks and adjustments so that it is musical in some ways.
That's great. So you're taking like the more Merce Cunningham approach to movement and everything.
Yes.
It's very scary, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It does help. It does help when I have the music already solidified, because then I know exactly what I'm going for from the beginning.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for that process. So do you have like a favorite experience, like company experience, whether it's like a particular venue that you've performed in or a dance that you've worked on together or something that's happened completely outside of the studio and the theater that's just happened with you and your company members?
I think the most memorable for us as a TO is the Ford Amphitheatre, and me as a choreographer. That was the first major venue that we performed in. And, we were discussing this the other day. It's so funny because it seems as if, things are just, and they are, it's moving along fairly quickly. We are really excited about all the venues that we're getting to perform in, especially this season coming up. But before the Ford, we were at the Odyssey, which is an intimate venue in Santa Monica. And so grateful for every venue that we've performed in, but really the Ford Amphitheatre was a huge opportunity for us, and it opened up the door to a lot more. So I think it was amazing. It was an amazing time. It was outside, it's in nature, and we were there for a residency. And so we got to spend a lot of time together, more than what we had before. And so every day for about 5 hours, we were, just together. And again, building that relation, building a deeper bond with one another while also creating our first intricate full evening work, Drift. So that was a lot of fun.
That's great. Yeah, that theater is just gorgeous because you're just part of the sky and the stars and everything else out there.
Right,
so
right.
Really great. So you just mentioned Drift. That's going to be one of the pieces that you're performing at Musco. Can you talk a little bit about the piece itself and maybe your choreographic process with that?
Yes. So Drift, I created in 2018, and I was inspired by mental awareness, really just being close to a person that suffered from schizophrenia and severe mental illness. And so it was a very serious topic, and I knew that I wanted to create a work that was based on it. But me not having the same experiences as my close friend, I found a relatability with just focusing on a mental state of being tossed and turned by so many different thoughts in 1 hour or 1 second, or, we're constantly hit with circumstances we weren't expecting. And so I created this work, and it was a full evening. And I expressed to everyone that drift is about being drifted from one thing to the next, the ups and downs of life, and how do we cope? Do we cope at all? And that was really vulnerable for me. It was the first time that I was that vulnerable as a choreographer with my dancers, because it was during a time where I was really excited, but I was also very nervous. So I was drifting back and forth in my own head about this choreographic opportunity. And so that was really what it was about. Serious topic, but as a choreographer, I also like to include elements of surprise. And so you still have this groove and this enjoyment, hopefully, watching it, because I include the ups, which has this like fun, exciting, relatable sound score. You may recognize some of the music from Lauryn Hill to Biggie Smalls, and then you kind of go down into the depths of it, and it's a little bit more raw and real, and you're hearing drones and synths and things that may take you to another place. And so Drift, it's really up and down, but it's exciting, and I think for us as performers caused us to go to that deep, raw place.
Is that something that's harder for your dancers to do, or do you feel like the dancers that you've chosen are easy? It's easier for them to go there because they share your values and everything?
Absolutely. I think, like you said, as time has gone on, at this point, we have been dancing together for about 3 years. And so we had gotten to a place where we were pretty comfortable with being raw in front of each other, being vulnerable. And we have a movement style called expand practice, which every day before we start rehearsing, we're warming up together and we are expanding our narrative. We're expanding our emotions right in front of each other. We're using our voice. We're changing and manipulating our face and distorting our face. And so that allows us to feel comfortable in front of each other. We even sometimes tell our story And it is all stream of consciousness, but instead of writing it down in our diary, we're saying it out loud to one another. And so that allows room for us to just let go and be as honest as possible with our physicality. Also, you know, when I created this work, it was relevant then, but it's even more relevant now after what we've all experienced coming out of 2020, just being hit with an unexpected circumstance. And, you know, a lot of our plans and our goals were changed. And that's exactly what Drift is about. And so.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I could say, but I'm just gonna say let's move forward. So could we, the other piece you're gonna be in, this is like the premiere of this piece, is 90 Sugar.
Right.
So without giving too many spoilers, can you talk about that piece a little bit?
Yes, well, 90 Sugar is a joy. It's much more humorous. We are kind of poking fun at our generation. And so what a lot of people don't know is that, or maybe you probably do know, I'm young, I'm 27 years old, and I love candy. I love sweets. Like sugar it's a bad thing to be an athlete and you love sugar that much, right? And so when thinking about this, I knew that I wanted to create a work that kind of poked fun at that. And so sugar came to mind, and I was thinking, I'm going to title a piece that has that in it, sugar. And then I realized that everyone in my company was born in the 90s. And so I said, you know what? I want to create a work that just celebrates the fact that we're young, we have all this energy, but then also, what does that mean? Like, where's the crash? You know, you might take in a lot of sugar, but then there's a crash somewhere. And so I kind of wanted to create a work on that. And this work, it is very narrative driven. The theater aspect of this work is just as important as the dancing. And so it stretched me as a creator, because I wrote a whole text for it. So there's 6 different characters, and we all have a different name, and we're bringing something to the table, and we all have dialogue within it. And so it's very humorous, it's very whimsical, and just a lot of fun to perform.
That sounds super fun. Also, I just got a question in the chat that I think I have to pause for and ask, but okay. What is your favorite candy?
Ooh, Sour Patch Kids all day.
There it is, Sour Patch. So 90 Sugar has been powered by Sour Patch Kids.
Exactly.
Can I ask how you, like, besides the whole, like, what other elements stand out to you as being kind of defining things for millennials? I don't know a better way to put that, but what else comes up in the piece besides this sugar rush?
Yeah. So as I said, I think we do poke fun a little bit at the fact that we are millennials. And there's a moment in the piece where we kind of say people may think we're entitled. You know, that might be a pre-assumption of this generation. And I juxtapose it with us dancing tirelessly, kind of showing that we are working really hard. You know, we're here is this company that we're all born in the same generation, but we're here and we're giving our all, and we're determined and we're focused, and we're, you know, unashamed about who we are and what we're bringing to the table. And so I think that's a theme throughout the work, that we are kind of making light of these assumptions of our generation, while at the same time very serious about what we're doing and taking our craft very seriously. And so that is kind of a theme, I think, throughout the work.
So the poking fun at the concept of the millennial, while also kind of dismantling what it is people's notions are.
Right.
We're getting some really good questions in the chat, so I kind of just want to, you know, pause my agenda here and see what some other people are asking. So we have a Sarah who asked, do you ever find yourself experiencing burnout in your choreographic process? And if so, where do you draw inspiration from?
Wow. I mean, I definitely do. I think that it comes back to why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I didn't have that purpose behind why I'm doing what I was doing, I think that, yes, it could be easy to throw in the towel or to stop, just because sometimes I don't feel like dancing. Sometimes I don't feel like creating. And although I love it so much, all of the unexpected turns, all of the things that come outside of the dancing and the creating, because there is a lot of extra work that goes into it, it can wear you out. And so for me, I'm inspired by purpose, and I'm also inspired by the people that I'm around. I allow more and more people to help me. And I think that's probably another great thing that I have learned, is that for me, if I can do it all by myself, then it's too small.
Do you have a place where you kind of get away from all of this craziness? I mean, I mentioned kind of jokingly, but seriously in the beginning, that like you have so much excitement going on. How do you keep up with all of it? Do you have just like a quiet place that you go to?
Yes, my room. It's very simple. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I do like to journal. I do write a lot. And as much as I can, I rest. I mean, after a rehearsal, I do take time to come home and just relax. And I don't put the pressure on myself to be everywhere. As far as some social engagements, I do say no to some things. And so, sometimes I feel like I can be a bore outside of the the dance studio. It's like, what are you doing? I got home, sleeping. But yeah, no, that time is very necessary for me. So I take it.
Good. It is. So another question from one of our chat boxers here. When I heard you talk about the isolation and vulnerability and drift, it sounds a lot like life in the pandemic. Looking back, have your feelings about drift changed since you created it?
Yes, I think asking myself more and more, what is my internal peace? What is that thing that I'm able to kind of, this is my anchor. And so I have to really solidify that for myself. And thankfully I have a family that is very supportive and very focused and kind of have their heads on straight, and they're not as pulled in so many different directions. So I think community is vital for me, and that has helped me a lot. The community of my family, I'm very close to them, and I also have some friends in my life that kind of keep me on what my anchor is. And so I think it's that is essential for me, to have that anchor no matter what is going on around me, that I'm able to come back to. So
along those lines, are there other pieces that you maybe look back on and think, what was I thinking when I choreographed that piece?
Yes.
That was so 5 years ago.
Yes. Oh man. I mean, I even look at the works that I love and say that I'm very critical. I think mostly on myself, not too much of the other people that are in the work. I think it's always on, oh man, I wish that I choreographed that differently, or I put in a moment of stillness there. I think that is one thing that I am very critical about my choreography. As I said earlier, I generate movement fairly quickly, but I also move a lot. Like the work is very dense. And so sometimes I'm like, it would have been nice to just kind of mellow out there in that moment. And so I think for sure there are pieces, a lot of them, probably in every single one, that I feel like, like I wish I could have did that differently. So
is that breath or silence or pause? Is that something that has gotten easier for you as you've matured as a choreographer?
Yes and no. It depends on how long the process is. I've found that a lot of my processes are fairly short. And so if they were longer, which that is something that I think, yes, I'm being more particular about. I need more time, because the more time I have, the more time I have to reflect and look at it from the outside and say, okay, this should change. I need more time here. It needs more space here. Because creatively, when I'm creating the movement and I'm in the zone, I'm not necessarily thinking that, I'm just kind of moving. And so I have to step out of it and watch it.
Do you get inspiration ever from kind of watching?
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't
Can
hear
you say
me?
order?
Yeah. Do you ever, because I know you do a lot of teaching, so do you ever get some of that inspiration from watching your students move in class and do that kind of a thing?
Yes, I do. I'm so inspired by people that I watch. Honestly, sometimes I feel like removing myself from the scene or the choreography or even I just stop and I just watch, because there are so many different impulses. And I love to see choices. I love to see people take risks, even something that I didn't necessarily instruct or give, while still staying within the realm of where we are as a group. That is really exciting for me, to see dancers just be free and make those choices.
Do you rely a lot on kind of more improvisational techniques, and when you're teaching, like, do you offer improv? Is that a thing? Yeah.
Yes. So expand practice is guided improv, and we are going through different textures and different emotions and words and really stamina building. I mean, we go into full on P90X, like exercises and jumps, and it's very thick though. The texture most of the time, even if we switch textures or ideas or tasks, it's very direct. The movement overall is very direct. And so we don't really have time to get too lost within ourselves. It's always out. It's always connecting with one another. It's always knowing exactly where your body is going. And so it's a challenge to improv, but also know what you're doing at the same time. I think that's always something that's going on in our minds.
I love that as you're telling me this, you're totally moving your body kind of as if you're teaching. It's just so ingrained in your body.
I can't help, yeah.
No, it's great. Do you have any sort of other artistic, I know you said you journal and you write a lot, but do you have other artistic outlets besides dance?
You know what? I don't really. I think I watch other artistic outlets. Like, I like to watch people sing. I mean, I love singers. I love to listen to people sing. I think that there's something very, the movement of their voice resembles the movement of dance. I like to see the tone changes and the pitch fluctuating, because it reminds me of, that's how a dancer, or that's how even how we talk, our tone changes. So that's I like doing that. I also like to watch other choreographers work a lot. So I'm subscribed to Marquee TV. I don't know if people are aware of that. And I will sit there for hours and watch works. So dance and singing, I think those are my two other, and it's not really me doing it, but I just take it in a lot. So
that counts, I think. We've got, a question from Facebook here. What is your advice for young dancers who feel uncomfortable with ballet classes, classical training, and should they continue to take that? Is that an important foundation?
For me, it was. And I would say for the work that I do, it is actually. And I think most people would look at my work and say, oh, I didn't know that, because we do a lot of isolations and stops. But for me, completely taking classical, and I was in a Russian ballet school for 5 years. That time for me was vital to how I move. And I think the reason why it's vital for the work that I do is because of the core. Very stable. The core is very strengthened in ballet. And I thankfully, before taking ballet, and I'm just speaking for myself because it depends on really what you want to do. Some people want to be, jazz, hip hop, and I don't know if ballet is a necessity for those works of that type of dance. But I know that for contemporary dance, I think that it's vital just because of the strengthening of your legs and your core, but really the core. And thankfully before ballet, for me, I did have that foundation in hip hop. So I still had this looseness there, but I still had this looseness there. But for me, yes, it was vital.
So would other kinds of cross training, would that be something that you recommend to strengthen the core and to get that leg strength?
Yes. I mean, whatever for you is vital for you to get that strength, you should do, and really take it seriously while you're there. See the value in it, because all of those outside sources of strength it can only help. So
be strong, yes. Have a strong core, and you can go.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be a 25 to watch just like you. You did, we saw a picture in the beginning, but you were on the cover of Dance Magazine. I think it was last year. What was that like for you, being kind of in that kind of a spotlight, knowing that your image would just be sent to people across the world, really?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge honor. It was something that I had set my mind to right after graduating college. That was a dream of mine. I wanted to be on the cover of Dance Magazine. And so I honestly didn't think that it would happen as soon as it did. It also happened in the beginning of the pandemic, which honestly kind of helped in a way, just because people were less busy. So they had a lot of time to actually sit down and read it. And so I was grateful, forever grateful for that.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a dream of a lot of dancers to make it like that. So I want to kind of open it up now to the chat and other people in the audience. If people want to start sending their questions my way, I can take them. Or if there's something, Micaela, that you want to say.
I'm open.
Or, I know we have probably a lot of Chapman dancers in our audience, and maybe other dance majors. What would be some advice that you would give to people who are studying dance in college? They have a limited time left. What kind of classes should they be taking? What should they be focusing on? What's really important in college?
I think there's something beautiful about creating. And so if you have any sort of composition classes, I would say don't take it for granted. I took it for granted in college. I really did. I did not think that I would be choreographing. I only wanted to dance for other choreographers. And then here I am choreographing works and enjoying it, loving it. But I took my composition classes for granted because I just thought this isn't what I want to do. So I would say, take those seriously. Also, dance is so enjoyable, and you are probably going to be able to do that a lot even as you graduate. But I would say that the fact that they're free in college, well, I don't know, completely free, but you get what I'm saying. At least you're able to have a schedule and it's planned and you're able to go. And when you're out of school, you have to really take charge of that. And sometimes it's not as easy to do that. But then also, I would say the conversational classes are great, especially if you want to be a choreographer. You really need to know how to write and talk. And it's very, very vital. So.
Yeah, people probably underestimate how much writing and applying for things that you do when you're a choreographer.
Yes.
Company, artistic director, manager, all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not only the physical dance classes, but the academic, the writing and the talking is essential. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So we got another question here. Did you, how does composing your own music work with your choreography, and do you have any kind of music background?
I do not, but I have composed a fair share of music for my works. And well, I shouldn't say composed. I've worked collaboratively with people to compose the music, and then I have edited together and made all of the transitions. And I have an ear for what I want, and I can't necessarily always put it together or make the music, but I'm very hands-on with telling the composer, this is what I hear. And I literally, I'm like, like on this side. lines.
You
but
feel it. You don't know how to write it necessarily.
Exactly. I feel it. And so I have worked with a composer. His name is David Shockey on a lot of projects now. I would say about 4 projects of mine now. And he's a trusted collaborator, very smart. And I like the way that he's able to bring out that element of surprise that I was telling you all about earlier, fluctuating between, yes, something very eerie and maybe you hear a synth and drum, but then it goes into an a cappella version of an R&B song or a song that you may know on the radio today. I like to put those 2 sounds together. I also, I like to play with popular music with a twist, and just so that it has this sort of dark, eerie sound. I enjoy that a lot. So.
And then it gives it like really kind of your flavor, and it has
right
picture on it. So that's nice. Yeah. Another question, what is your experience with choreographing for the stage versus what everyone has had to move on? Oh, okay. So I think this question is talking about choreographing for the stage when so many performances now are virtual, or kind of like, how does this change, tours and performing on stages again, if you're teaching or doing things virtually?
Well, I think it changes in who's watching. A lot of venues have limited their capacity of people watching live. And so you just know that you may not be getting the same level of energy from the audience while performing, which we have gotten somewhat accustomed to because a lot of us have been performing virtually or to a screen. And so it's not that we're uncomfortable with it. The virtual world has somewhat strengthened us in that way. And so I would say that would be the major way. Other than that, the process is fairly the same. I mean, working with venues and the prep, the tech weeks, the backstage, it's pretty similar to how it was before. Maybe a few more precautions.
Lots more precautions.
Yeah.
Did you, for a period of time, have to kind of teach your choreography with your dancers over Zoom or anything like that?
We did do, I think, 2 rehearsals virtually, but other than that, through the 2020 year, we did a lot of intimate film projects that didn't require the entire company. Okay. And so we were able to still rehearse in person because it was a small group, or, not more than 4. So that was nice.
You were able to be around the people that you love so much.
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
This is all very great. Do we have any more questions? People want to type things in. Here. What are you looking forward to most working with Chapman students this week, since you'll be here for the whole week? Because I know they are definitely looking forward to working with you. So.
Well, I'm excited to see you. That's really, and when I say see you, I don't mean just see you and say hi. I mean, see you come out in the movement, your vulnerability, your story, because we will dive into that rawness. We will dive into that vulnerability with just sharing your physicality. And so that's always exciting to me when I go and I'm working with people that I haven't before. It's going to be a lot of sweat. It's going to be a lot of stamina building, but it's all fun and exciting.
So the students you'll be working with I think they fall out of the category of millennial.
Okay.
Do you think that people who fall outside on the other end of millennial will be able to understand and get sort of your references to this 90s sugar that you're presenting?
Yes, because I think the millennial generation, it's a wide range. And so you do have the tail end of the millennial generation, which I caught a little bit of, that, the tech era was starting to really evolve. And so we do touch on that about internet and social media. And so I believe that they will relate to that for sure. I don't want to give it away, but hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, no more spoilers. Yeah. That's enough. Are you taking 90 Sugar on tour?
Yes.
You are?
Yes, we are.
like a national tour? Are you performing internationally right now?
Yes, well, we have plans in the spring to go to Panama.
Okay.
And so we'll be taking 90 Sugar there, and then also just some national venues in the spring. We'll be performing actually at the Wallace this next month. And so we'll be here. And then we'll also be going to New York for Fall for Dance. And so, yeah, we got some shows coming up, a few more, but.
That's a very exciting roster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably something you didn't think much about until you started choreographing and setting pieces was tech and the tech that went along with your pieces. So I know you're doing a lot of tech this week. What does a typical tech week look like for you?
It's intense. I mean, we're bringing all of the elements together, right? So it's more than just about the dance, but it's bringing the lighting in, and the sound and the props and all of that together. And so each day, I would say we start from about 11, and then we have scheduled to go into 9 p.m. And that's really just incorporating all of those elements. My lighting designer is going to be there, and, might include some haze. So we got to get it all working together. We have to bring it all. And I think it's really, for me, during the tech week, it's about communication. So I'm no longer wearing my choreographic hat. That happened in the rehearsal process. Now I'm stepping into kind of the director, like looking at it from the outside view and telling every person, lighting, sound, this is when I want this to come in. This is what I'm seeing for this lighting, and work collaboratively with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it takes that whole village to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Planning.
Absolutely.
I think our questions have stopped flowing in. Is there anything else I should be asking you?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. This is so great. We are so appreciative of just this interview and you being here for the week. And I know everyone's looking forward to classes with you and seeing 90 Sugar and Drift on Friday. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Can't wait.